Hey guys, and welcome to Motorskati, and welcome aboard the Night 2000. In this video, you can see I'm already in my Firebird. I'm going to replace the turn signal return springs for the left side, and probably also for the right side, because the left spring, there's two springs. There's one spring for either side, and when you blink, when you indicate on one side, as soon as you turn back to the opposite side, or if you straighten out the steering wheel, the turn signal indicator stalk is supposed to click back into the neutral position, and that's not happening in my car anymore when I blink or when I press it down for the left side. It's been like this since I bought the car, and I've been meaning to replace it 2 years ago already when I got in the interior. But I ordered the return springs online and both sides, because there's one distinct one for the left and for the right side. And I only got a bag with the springs for the right side. So meanwhile, I've been able to order the set for both sides. And in this video, I'm going to replace both sides, since I'm going to go in there. So I'm also going to replace the right side, even though it's still good, but might as well just put a new spring in there just in case it's about to break there as well. Before I remove the steering wheel, I'm going to disconnect the battery and wait a couple of minutes just to let all the remaining electricity go through the system, and then remove everything. To get the airbag out, you need to remove the 4 T25 torque screws that are here in the back. I would usually get a normal Torx screwdriver, but since there's very little space here in between all the gauges and the stalks and the ignition key plug and everything, I just took, just as a tip if you don't have, a T25 bit from a drill bit, put it into a socket, number 1 socket, put it into my 7mm socket, and then use some gaffer tape to hold it in place. And now there should be enough space. Even at now it's a little bit tight, so you might just be able to go in there with the socket and maybe use the plier. What you can try is to loose it up equally in all 4 corners, so there's less tension. Maybe it's pulling sideways on one of the screws. So here on the right side of the steering wheel, there's enough space to get the ratchet. Loosen the other 3 ones. It just comes out much more easily. Pull it out, and then you have here the airbag plug. Yeah, pull this up and pull the plug out. Now it's time to put the steering wheel puller in place, and when you do, you have, probably with your steering wheel puller, a multitude of different bolts. You have 2 bolts that actually need to go into here, into the center, into the steering column, and then the middle one, which is going to go into the middle section to pull away from the steering column. So just align the whole thing, start bolting it on in by hand, and make sure that everything is straight. And don't bolt these side screws in too far, just far enough so that they are in the steering wheel. You don't want to bolt it into the steering column elements that are in behind. Take your wrench, it's a 14mm, and if everything is aligned straight, you can just start pulling. See? and I've already reached the point where it's coming easily, and there we go. Mind your airbag cable, try this through, and there you go. This is what I meant with the 2 bolts here. Don't bolt them in too far because you're going to bolt into the airbag system here. So it just needs to be in the steering wheel, not through into the steering column. The next thing you have to do to take this out is to get a set of needle nose pliers to take out this little clip here. Now you should be able to remove this just by hand. Wiggle it a bit. See? When you put this back in, you have this notch here on top and on the bottom. And obviously you have this piece here, so it all has to line back up when you put it back in. This notch needs to go inside here, these grooves here. On top and on the bottom. Should be something similar here in the bottom. Not quite. But I mean, you just need that one as a guide. Put this in between these grooves here, and then it will be aligned properly. Now, there's this little washer here that you can just pull out, put aside. Remember to put back in when you put everything back together. And now, in order to get to the actual turn signal springs, which are in here, you have to remove this clip here, which is in this groove, but which holds in this plate. So in order to remove the spring, you actually have to push this metal section inwards the steering column, then pull out the spring, which won't be under pressure anymore, and then you can pull the whole element out. So to do that, you can actually either get a specific tool for that, or you can do it like me. I just built my tool myself. Now here's my super fancy self-made tool to push in this plate so I can get access to that ring, take out that ring, and then take the plate back out. So I basically just took this piece of metal, made it a U-shaped piece of metal that can push against this, and this weird construction here is basically just to connect this rod with the steering column. This is just going behind. This is on the steering column, the nut from the steering column. The rod, this bolt here is just on the top section of the steering column, but it's not bolted on it because it's actually a smaller diameter at this one. And this helps me to hold it together, so I can actually just bolt down this nut here, which presses this U-shaped piece of metal onto this plate, so it takes pressure off the ring. Then I can take the ring off. You could do this a bit simpler. This here, if you just took one of these longer nuts where you can bolt onto the steering column on one end and screw down actually this bolt on the other end. The thing is here that in Europe we have different bolt patterns, and the threads are not exactly the same as in America. And since the steering column here has an American sized bolt pattern, and here this is a metric one, I couldn't really find something that would match. So I had to come up with this weird construction, but it does the job. And now I'm just gonna tighten this down and take out that little ring here. All right, what you can do is just take a vice grip and hold the bolt with one hand and push against, bolt this down, put some pressure on this, and I can already see how the pressure is off the ring here. Now it appears to be out. Just push it up a bit. Now I can start releasing the pressure from the whole element in this. Removing this. All this trouble just for this little spring. This clip actually, just a C-clip. Put this somewhere where you know it is, so you don't lose it, because it's important. And now you can pull this out. And there we go. Put this aside. Right, here's the inside. Obviously you can see this one is actually originally a right spring with the pin here on the right side, like here. I went in here 2 years ago and ordered the left and the right spring and only got a set of right springs. And that's when I tried to bend over a right spring to insert it on the left, but that didn't work. So basically this can just go. And here I have the new set. So now I'm just gonna, oh, that is the right spring as well. But this is the left spring. Insert the pin here first, and then bring it in, and then bend this over, clip it in, and there you go. Which puts it all the way down. And then here on that side, the right, well, that's still working, but actually I want to change it just for peace of mind. Who knows how long this is gonna work. That's it. It's actually less resistance here. So there we go. All just for this. You can see indicating left, and then when you turn over the wheel, it should cancel that. Same thing for the right. Obviously we're only gonna know once I put everything together and go for test drive, but as far as this is concerned, that's all back together. And now we can start putting things back together. And put this here. When you reinsert this, make sure that this notch here actually lines up with the lock here. This is what the locks the steering wheel. You can see this is what's going to go back in here once I press this back in with the same tool I just used. Press this back in. Line this up in here, and put everything back together in the reverse procedure. Just one tip here, put that ring in place before you put the tool back on, otherwise it's going to be hard to bend this all the way in. Just for good measure. Then you put pressure on this and you can just clip it in down in the indentation. Alright, I'm back on a test drive. Let's see if it works. I'm just about to arrive at a junction. Let's set the indicator left. Turn in, straighten up. See, it already cancelled. It works. Let's try the right one. Going right here, and it already canceled. As soon as you just slowly go back to straighten out the steering wheel, it cancels the indicator stock. Success! That's it for this video, guys. I hope it was useful. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.